What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Blitz Bits. I'm your host, Ryan, or KG, and I'm with my best friend, Coach Cash Smith, the man, the myth, the legend, the mullet god. I see you got the mullet, bro. Looking good.
Oh yeah, bringing it back in style.
That's where it's at, big man. Okay, so guys, we got a couple things we're going to cover today. We got Jordan Mailata news. Stephon Diggs traded to the Texans. What else you got for me, Cash?
Big one I was looking at today was the Derek Brown extension.
Okay.
$96 million extension. That's a big one.
And then we're going to cover draft
a
stuff
few
today.
other ones. But yeah, you're fine. Go ahead.
We're going to cover some draft stuff today as well. So let's get in order. So number one is going to be Jordan Mailata. So, Cash, do you have those details pulled up?
Yeah, I do. It's just a 3-year, $66 million extension. So, $22 million a year. That's going to be $48 million guaranteed. And that's just sort of the financial side of it. And then what's your take on the more practical side of that?
I kind of like it. What does it average out to? 366. That'd be 22.
22 a year,
22.
yeah.
That's not bad. Tyron Smith's getting 20 a year. Jordan Mailata is younger. He's also, because he's younger, you pay more for the younger guys. I like that. I think that's actually a pretty good deal. The $48 million guaranteed, I think, might be a little on the higher end for a guy like Mailata. I don't remember correctly, but I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty big injury history, right?
I'm trying to remember. I'm wanting to say that he doesn't. I don't remember him ever missing a bunch of games. I might be wrong about that, though.
I can find it for us right now.
I know that last season he played all 17 games.
Yes. Okay, so it's just been regular offensive lineman stuff. Back, knee, shoulder. Okay, yeah. I was wrong on that. Never mind. 48 seems good then. I like that. What do you think, Cash?
I think it's a pretty good deal, especially, the key to having success in the NFL is being able to have your homegrown talent and then be able to keep it around. And I think the Eagles have done a good job of that with this move, honestly, because obviously that's, a 7th-round draft pick that you're able to bring in, develop, and turn him into a top 10. I think he plays left tackle, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, top 10 left tackle, which is a premium position. And so I think that's a, great move by them to keep around their own. He's been with the program now 5 or 6 years, so he's probably a more respected leader on the team. So I think it's a good move all around, good move for both sides, honestly.
I agree. And whenever you have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, and this is not for the Eagle people that are watching or Eagle Jalen Hurts supporters, this is not a knock on Jalen Hurts, but whenever you have a guy like Jalen Hurts who does struggle with his pocket presence as a elite quarterback, you need your offensive line to be there, be alert. You do not want any Joe Burrow situations where the incoming blitz and nobody picks it up. So I like that. Mailata, like you said, great left tackle, premium position, great price. It says his per year average puts him behind only Larry Tunsil, Trent Williams, and Andrew Thomas. Literally some of the best left tackles in football. So I think that's pretty good. I think that's about where I would probably rank him, about 4 or 5 best when it comes down to putting him in the left tackle rankings. Mm-hmm. I think it's overall, I give it a 9 out of 10 on the scale, not a 10 out of 10 just because you might have been able to swindle him out of an extra couple million, and that'd be it.
And I think another big part of it is that, especially, all right, if we look at Eagles news this offseason, mm-hmm. the 2 big moves that stick out to me, well, and the first one, not so much a move, but Kelsey retiring. And, mm-hmm. That's their all-pro center. That's their guy. So that's a big piece of their offensive line that they're losing. And the other move on the other side of that spectrum is gaining Saquon Barkley. And Barkley came to Philadelphia because he wants to win, but also because of that Philadelphia line that we hear so much about. And so I think that being able to, after you've lost such a great player, bring back a great player and make sure that he's going to be around for the long run to protect, who they're hoping is their franchise QB and to protect their $13 million a year running back, big key part for success.
Correct. And actually, that's a good point that I forgot about. Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. That's a key note, and that you're 100% right on that. Mailata is a great overall left tackle because the way that I look at things, there's very few left tackles obviously, I mean, literally outside of Laramie Tunsil, Trent Williams, Andrew Thomas, Mailata, Tyron Smith, outside of those guys, which are the premier guys at that position, off the top of my head, um, every offensive lineman is kind of like a Madden rating. They do things great and they do things bad. And for example, Terrence Steele has always been an elite uh, run blocker, but this is just used as the Cowboys as an example. But Terrence Steele on PFF rates him like a 60 overall as like a pass protector every year. And so this last year he got rated like a 50 overall at pass protector. Well, it's like, and everybody's like, oh, it's because of his ACL, it's because of his ACL, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, that is true. However, he's always been a mid pass protector, but he's always been an elite run blocker. But like a guy like Mailata, I can't think of one time where an Eagles fan has told me, or I've read that his pass protection is bad or his run blocking is bad. I mean, he's 6'8", like almost 400 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that just kind of speaks for itself. He's 6'8", 370 pounds. So I think I like it. I like I said, I rate that a 9 out of 10.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
That's something that I don't think I touched on in these podcasts is Saquon to the Eagles. What do you think about that? That's old news, but
I mean, I think for the Eagles, it was a good move. I don't think that they overpaid for Saquon. You're going to hear a lot of people say that they did because it's, running backs in today's NFL, they're dinosaurs, right? Like you just don't pay money for them because you can get a Braylon Allen in the third round and he'll put up 1,200 yards his rookie year. But
You're coming around. I love you so much. Guys, you guys do not know. Cash and I discussed this such a long time ago. Whenever it was the do you pay Tony Pollard situation. And we talked about this where I was under the assumption, the belief rather, that you don't pay running backs, you can find them cheap. Cash was under the assumption, I would assume, or maybe half is, half isn't.
It just depends on me for the running back because with a guy like Christian McCaffrey, I would never I would pay him $18 million a year to keep him around because there's running backs like him, like Saquon, like 2022, 2021 Austin Eckler, who they bring a receiving ability to the game that your average rookie running back is just not going to be able to replicate. You're not going to see a Braylon Allen or a Jonathan Brooks putting up 80 catches their first year. Right. And so at that point, I'm paying basically my number one running back and my slot wide receiver, really, is how I look at it when you have that kind of special talent. Because, if you look at it, there's probably, and this is just off the top of my head, so you can correct me, but I'm thinking 4 or 5, premium receiving backs in the league.
No, I think that's right. I agree. And that is my belief through and through. The guys, the Nick Chubbs of the world, the Christian McCaffreys of the world, whenever he's healthy, Saquon has been his rookie year and his sophomore year were really good. Recently, he's kind of fell downhill, but I would just attribute that to the fact that anybody on the Giants is going to start going off, not because they get bad, but because you're on the Giants and you have to play with freaking Tommy DeVito, whose agent is literally a mob boss. So, I think I totally agree. But then it comes to the Tony Pollards of the world and the Aaron Joneses of the world. Not Aaron Jones. Sorry. AJ Dillon, Zeke.
Oh, yeah.
These guys. It's like you can replace that so easy because, for example, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard ran for about 4 yards a carry this year. That's That's mid. That is literally the definition of mid. It's not bad. It's not good. There's no negative connotation behind that word for me right now. It is just mid. And it's I'm sure that if Jonathan Brooks came in with a torn ACL his first year back, I'm sure that he could put up 4 yards a carry.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's fresh. So that was just where my argument was laying at that time. But I mean, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, and so it just, going back to your original question, which was just my take on this Saquon, in him to the Eagles, I do think Saquon's worth $13 million a year. And, just to, put it on the table so everybody knows where I come from, I'm a Packers fan. So I saw us go and pay Josh Jacobs $12 million a year. In my opinion, Josh Jacobs is worth about $8 million a year, because I know that he's a great runner, fantastic runner. We saw that in last year or the year before last, when he had, the rushing crown behind a mid offensive line and he put up 5 yards a carry. But the thing is he offers little to no receiving prowess beyond just the screen game. Like, I know he's had 40 or 50 catches a year, but it's all screens. And what I'm looking for is a Christian McCaffrey that you can line him up in the slot and actually make him run like an 8 yard out, and he's going to be successful there. But all that to say, that's what I feel Saquon brings to the table, is that he is a guy who you can count on, that, you can, if need be, you can send Saquon on like a 15-yard post. Like we saw Penn State do that with him way back in, I think, 2016. Like we saw them use him in that aspect. We know he's capable of that. And just from that aspect, I'm like, he's worth every dime of $13 million a year. Great move by the Eagles. Takes a lot of pressure off Jalen Hurts. Hopefully they're going to quit using him for the tush push and let Saquon get some touchdowns, but I guess we'll see how that all plays out.
That is so funny, bro. I honestly, if I'm not, because this is supposed to be an unbiased podcast, I'm supposed to just put my opinions out there. If this was not an unbiased podcast, this would just be a Jalen Hurts hate campaign. This is all this would be. Like, I just do not like him as a quarterback, but we'll get off that topic. There was something that I just saw. I need to mute my phone. That's the first rule of podcasting: mute your phone. So Romeo Okwara just retired after 8 seasons. Underrated, really underrated defensive Lions player on their defense. Great run player. And then I just saw something else that just literally slipped my mind. Okay, whatever. We'll come back to it. Okay. So, what else was the other thing that you mentioned at the beginning?
Derek Brown, that extension,
and that was a Panthers extension.
Yep, Panthers extension. It was $96 million total. Let me pull it up on ESPN real quick and see what the financial was behind that. Yeah, it was 4-year, 96 with 63 guaranteed.
Okay, I like it. Derek Brown, young, mean, good player overall. I don't, from my best knowledge, I don't think Derek Brown is going to be your pass rush guy. But
no, not at all. I'm looking. He had 2 sacks last season.
Right, and it's so tough in the NFL today to get a guy. So okay, if every NFL team had a guy like Derek Brown, they would never have to blitz or stack more than 7 in the box ever, because you have a guy that can hold 2. So, like, for example, on the Cowboys are just stupid, and they just, Dan Quinn just wanted to run dollar every single play for some reason. But if we were to use them as an example, whenever they were in their base package, 3 linebackers, 4 down linemen, if you had a guy like Derek Brown, you would never need to bring anybody else into the box ever. That would be sufficient. But then you go and look at the Cowboys. The only true run stopper they have is Jonathan Hankins. That's what I was going to talk about. Glad I went off on this tangent. But I like Derek Brown. I'm not sure if his contract APY. Do you know what the APY is?
Yeah. Yep.
What is it?
Average per year.
No, what the APY is.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be 24 million. I was like, how dumb do I look like I am? No, it's 24 million a year for his contract.
24 million a year.
I think, I'm going to be honest, I think Derek Brown is a great defensive tackle, but I don't think that he is top tier. I don't think he is top 3. I would be giving him 16 to 17. And if nothing else, and I know what you just said about him, taking up double, 2 blockers every play maybe, and being great in the run game. I have no doubt he's great in the run game. But my thing is if I'm going to pay a defensive tackle $24 million a year, I am looking for, honestly, somewhere up the, someone in the Aaron Donald tier, like someone that I know is going to put up 8-9 sacks from that defensive tackle position. I know that, like the Packers, we have Kenny Clark. He plays we just switched to a 4-3, so he plays defensive tackle now. He played nose tackle last year. And he had, I think, 6.5 sacks last year, and we're paying him $18 million a year. And it just seems like a reach to me for a guy that, yes, like he's a consistent presence, but he's only making probably 4 or 5 impact plays a game. If I'm going to pay someone over $20 million a year at the defensive tackle position, I want to see, 3 or 4 hurries a game, a couple pressures, and, a sack at least every other game, not 2 sacks, and I'm looking for tackles for loss. And I know that that's just like stats. And I know that you're big into like advanced statistics and going beyond just ESPN stats. But ESPN stats are also, pretty fair tell. But that's just my take. What are you thinking about it?
So I'm looking at it right now. He is trailing Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, and Justin Madubuike. Chris Jones, upper echelon of defensive tackles. Justin Madubuike, upper echelon of defensive tackles. Freaking Christian Wilkins is up there. That is like
Oh, I love
that
that
is
guy.
like, dude. I know. Have you seen that meme? Whenever it's like Blood really tried to sneak him in there without us noticing, thinking that we
Yeah.
wouldn't notice. That's what it really
Yeah.
is. Because Christian Wilkins last year was a top 10 defensive tackle
Oh,
in
yeah.
his position. He was a great defensive tackle. Don't get me wrong, but if 24 million is trailing Christian Wilkins, then I want to know what the hell they paid Christian Wilkins. I did not see that, and I got to look at that real quick.
I'm wanting
Uh,
to say it was close to 30 a year. Yeah, I think it
oh
was close to
my
30.
gosh, they paid him 4 years, 110,
Golly, yes, that's what,
and
28, 27.
yeah, and then hold on, Christian Wilkins is 28 years old.
Hmm.
Okay, so I always get on to my buddy Truman, who's on this podcast all the time, as y'all know, for being the age guy, right? Like, oh, that guy's old, that guy's washed. I'm like, no, just because he's 30, he's not washed. But at the defensive tackle position, I don't know if Christian Wilkins has 4 more solid top 10 seasons under his belt. Because last year he had 9 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 38 tackles. So he was a pass rusher.
And that was a big down year for him in tackles. I think look at the year before that. I think he had like 90 tackles. Because I
The year
remember
before that, he had 100.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yep.
Yeah,
So,
but he only had 3.5 sacks.
mhm.
What about
But I
tackle for
think that the
loss?
important part of that to note is that kind of gives you an understanding of the fact that, okay, this guy has the ability to be a force in the run game and the pass rush game. He might not have necessarily put those two things together yet at the same time, but we know he has that ability in his toolbox.
Right. If I'm looking at Derek Brown last year had 1 sack. Derek Brown this year had 103 sacks. I mean, not sacks, sorry. Oh, God. Uh,
Okay, all right.
103
Bro's coming for
tackles.
Bruce Irvin's record there or something.
Dude.
Bruce Smith.
Yeah, that is crazy. 103 total tackles and 2 sacks this year. So he definitely had a big step up. I'm just wondering, yeah, Derek Brown, that's weird. How did defensive tackles, why did their numbers just change so drastically? Like Christian
Yeah.
Wilkins the year before had 100, then this year he had 36, and then Derek Brown last year had 67, and then 100 this year, but then 2 years ago he had 34.
I would be interested to know. I don't know this off the top of my head, but did they switch defensive coordinators in between those seasons? Because depending on who your coordinator is, that's a big difference between whether you have your defensive tackles just plugging gaps or your defensive tackles racking up all those, the tackles. And it's, the difference between how you use your inside linebackers. Do you use your inside linebackers more for the purpose of covering the tight end or the running back? Or are your are your linebackers like that? I'm trying to think of a good example. Who's
Eric
that? Alua?
Hendricks,
Yeah, Eric
Eric
Kendricks or Foy. He's on the
Foye
Jaguars.
Oluokun.
Yeah, him. Just those tackle eaters. So I think that's probably a big difference is the type of scheming that the defensive coordinator is making up.
Mm-hmm.
That impacts it a lot.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And speaking of, well, actually, we'll come back to that. I'll remember that. Okay, moving on. Derek Brown. Before we do, actually, sorry. Derek Brown. Rate that on a scale of 1 to 10, in your opinion.
You know what? I would give that. I don't like the move. I don't like the amount of money that they gave him at all. But I would give it an 8 out of 10, and here's why. because look at the Panthers. They don't have really a face of the franchise right now. And their fans are pissed because they got rid in the past, in the past two off seasons, they got rid of DJ Moore and Brian Burns.
Hmm.
In both those moves, the early returns on them are looking pretty bad on the Panthers'
Hmm.
part. And
Hmm.
those are two homegrown talents by the Panthers. And fans hate it when you trade away a homegrown talent. And so I think that right there is the Panthers, their owner probably pressuring the GM, and this is just speculation, but owner probably pressuring the GM, and probably the GM feeling the pressure from the fans as well. That what, this is homegrown talent. The fans are already pissed off and livid as it is. We need to keep this guy around.
Right.
So I'm willing to pay him $4 million more a year than he's actually worth to guarantee he's going to be around.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that assessment, definitely. And that's just the weird thing about NFL franchises, is that you have a guy that's just like crazy good, and then you either like NFL franchises are so odd because there's like some people that cause so many damn problems and they never get rid of them. And there's so many players that cause no problems, get their job done, they don't do anything wrong. Amari Cooper. And you
Rip
trade them.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, like I just don't get it. I just do not get NFL
Yeah.
franchises sometimes. Like if I'm running an NFL franchise and there's a guy like a Brian Burns, a DJ Moore, like you say, homegrown talent, and I'm like, okay, this is great, and I've got these young, good players. I don't need an extra first round pick to find my face of the franchise when it comes to my quarterback position. Because if you need two first round picks to get, how do I phrase this? If you need two first round picks if you get two first round picks, how did you get those two first round picks? Did you really trade DJ Moore for another first round pick? Do you think that you can replace DJ Moore's body of work with a first round pick? If so, you're mistaken. How did you get the Brian Burns? Did you trade him for a first round pick? How did you
No.
get that? But you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking to myself. What did you trade him for? A second, a third, a fourth, whatever? Do you think the second, third, fourth round player is going to replace that body of work? No? Well then why did you do it? Oh, we wanted to save money. Screw your
Yeah.
money. The salary cap's a myth. Kick the can down the road, shut your mouth. Like I'm so tired of hearing that. These like it's just excuses because they don't like the people. But I digress. Like the Amari Cooper thing, everybody was like, "Why did we trade Amari Cooper?" Jerry Jones is like, "Oh, we needed to save salary cap space. $20 million a year was just too much." Now it's looking like the league, the freaking vet minimum.
Yeah.
But
Obviously.
and then and then it turns out that the whispers are, "Oh, we didn't like the fact that he didn't get vaccinated."
Yeah. And
Oh yeah, let's trade away him for a fifth round pick. Who did that fifth round pick turn into? It ended up being like Akeem Richards, who, by the way, is a practice squad player. You ass, like I cannot stand them. They're so goofy in the way that they think. I don't know, bro. I'm just
yeah.
so over it. I'm so over
No.
it.
I
As
mean,
you can
listen, I
see.
just watched the Packers trade Aaron Jones, so I know exactly what you're going through.
Like, what did Aaron Jones do wrong? Like, he literally, what is he, injury prone? Who gives a crap? He's like, oh, how old is Aaron Jones? Like 29?
Yeah, 29.
Like, who cares? And every time he plays, he puts up like 3 receiving touchdowns and 5 rushing touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. Like you just and the other thing is that he was low key kind of the face of our franchise, and we've got Jordan Love coming into his own now. But Aaron Jones, us fans, like we loved Aaron Jones just because he was an
Mhm.
icon. Like
Mhm.
that meme of him against the Vikings, just tossing up the L. Like I'm always gonna remember that. Like Aaron Jones is the man, and then we just cut the man. Like that was our guy, our leader, and now he's playing for our rivals. Like that one, it stings, it hurts.
Mhm. Why did they do that trade? Did they really trade him or did he get released?
Oh, he got released. He got released.
Okay. Um, moving on. Stephon Diggs
Oh boy.
traded to the Texans for a second round pick, and the Texans got Stephon Diggs in a fourth and a fifth. Um, Overall, I would say that that's a pretty fair trade. I think that in the argument that I just used to make fun of the Panthers for Brian Burns and DJ Moore, I think that there are enough receivers in this year's class that you could replace Stephon Diggs' body of work with a good quality guy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
A
for
thousand
sure.
receiving yards, but maybe not. And that's what I told Cash earlier yesterday. I don't actually was it today? No, it was
It was
yesterday. It was
yesterday.
yesterday. That to me just seems like middle of the pack, good fair. It was a good fair trade. Nobody got fleeced, unless they draft like some seventh round graded guy
Yeah.
who just is big, and then you're like, oh, and he sucks. So then that'd be the Texans fleeced. But I don't know. What are you thinking about that?
I agree with you. I think and I was telling you yesterday that down there A&M, that's awful close to Houston. It's all my Houston friends were just going off, all excited. We got them for a bag of chips, yada yada yada. But as I was thinking about it, I'm a lot more inclined to agree with your take that Stephon Diggs, drama queen. And like at the end of the day, all good wide receivers are drama queens, but he's borderline a cancer at this point. And teams had figured out that, you double him in the first quarter so he doesn't get any catches. And then the rest of the game, he's playing out of his own head. And he's just, you know, beyond useless at that point, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to turn 31 this season, so he's going to be old. And he was also playing with Josh Allen. Like, I think that, if you're playing with Josh Allen, you're going to put up good numbers. I think, Stephon Diggs, he's definitely still a talented wide receiver, but I don't think he is the top 5 wide receiver we have him, like, in our heads as. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it
That's
was a
why
good
I think trading him for a second round pick is quality. I totally
exactly.
agree with that. And Stephon Diggs has always been and still is like a top 3 route runner. So that means that you age better as a receiver. Like a guy like a Deshaun Jackson that just never stops. He not
Mm-hmm.
only mastered the route game art, he mastered the run after catch art, he mastered the getting open part. And he used his speed. And as he got older, he got slower. But like then you go look at a guy like a Larry Fitzgerald. Never been a fast guy, but a really good route runner. After a couple years, he got slower, and whatever you're already slow and you get slower as you're getting older, then that just kind of negates the fact. But he was still a high quality route runner, is able to put up decent numbers. So I think of it like that. I think that Stephon Diggs is going to put up another 1,000-yard year. He's going to be a good quality separation guy. He's like, if you go look at his numbers on PFF, it's not going to be a situation of like a Michael Gallup for the Cowboys where his catch separation was like 0.2 yards. It's going to be like an Amari Cooper type guy where it's going to be 3 or 4 yards of separation on every catch. That's what I think, and that's going to provide an easy, nice target for a young quarterback like C.J. Stroud, who might still have his warts in the second year where he might just miss a throw by a hair. And that way, now you can miss a throw by a hair and not get penalized for it. I think that's smart. I think that's building around the quarterback. That'll lead us into something else we'll talk about later on with C.J. Stroud, but it's my personal opinion on it. 5 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. I would give it, 5 out of 10, I think, is the only way you can go because it was a solid move for both teams. No one lost.
Yeah, I totally agree. Your thoughts?
You kind of hit on everything there, and it's like I said that he's an aging wide receiver, and I don't want to try and segue too much because I don't know where you're trying to go from here, but my thoughts is like you said that CJ Stroud, I think that's going to be a good option for him. My only concern is that we do know that Diggs is a drama queen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be in an offense that's competing for Joe Mixon's carries and then Dalton Schultz, Tank, and Nico Collins.
Yep.
4 really high-end players. And
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be competing against all of them for catches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, if it gets to like week 8 in the season and Diggs only has, 28 catches on the year, is he going to already be like, man, I want to trade. And then that's just going to – it's times like that you can either make or break your franchise's season because if Diggs goes in there and if he's like, I'm here to teach these younger guys, I'm here to help out this team, I could see the Texans going to the Super Bowl depending on how Stroud plays.
Mm-hmm.
But if Diggs goes in there and if he gets pissed off that he's not getting 10 catches a game, then he's going to start whining and complaining. And then that's going to piss off Stroud. It's going to piss off their wide receivers. And it's just going to be this team cancer. Team's going to eat itself. And we're going to probably end up seeing like the Texans, I see them going one of 2 ways. Either they're just going to be balling out all year long, really good, or they're going to be like last year's Eagles. And they're going to start off, 7-3, 8-2, somewhere in there. And they'll still make the playoffs, but it's going to be one of those things where they just limp into the playoffs. And you're just like, man, what are we even doing here? You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of, I know that was a big,
because they were limping and you just felt bad watching them. Yeah, totally.
big rabbit trail there. But
No,
that's
no, you're good. You're good. I like that. I like moving on and going in deeper into it. We don't have to keep it right on it. That's not the point of this. Like we're not just reading off a script. I like that. I agree, and that's a good point that I did not think about. But this is what I think. I think that Stephon Diggs is going to get there, and it's going to be a situation where whenever they traded him to the Bills, whenever they traded Diggs, that is, to the Bills, Josh Allen was already the guy, and nobody had to worry about Josh Allen getting his job taken. So Josh Allen was probably acting differently. Like, okay, I'm the guy, I'm the leader, I'm going to tell people what to do. CJ Stroud's going into year 2. He's still learning the game. Stephon Diggs is an older guy, like you said, almost 31. What I think will happen is that Stephon Diggs goes in there. All these guys are young. Collins, Dell, Stroud. Joe Mixon is not young, but, and like that. He's going to go in there and be like, hey, guys, listen, this is what I do. He's going to teach the receivers. He's going to teach the quarterback. I think that'll help his whole prima donna act is if he sees himself as the adult and sees himself as the oldest one in the room and the mentor for everyone else. I think that will change his outlook on things. But who knows? Maybe he does not care. And maybe he literally is just like, I got paid. I'm here in Houston. Let's have a freaking grand old time. Houston throws the best parties. Let's go get drunk every weekend. Like, yeah. It could be that. It could be that. It could be, like I said, an Odell situation where he goes to Baltimore and since, maturity.
Yeah. And I like what you said, actually. That's a good point about, that could play into how he does with them is how he views himself. Because like you said, if he can view himself as the older guy on this Texans team, that's going to be handy. Because let's keep in mind that he was on that Bills team, and that Bills team was one of the older teams in the league. Like, they cleaned house this offseason. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Gabe Davis, he wasn't that old, but and I know like Mitch Morse, I think he was in his 30s. They let go of a lot of guys who are in their 30s. And that was an older team. Diggs probably saw himself, even if it subconsciously is still kind of one of the younger guys. And, if he can go into, like you said, that mentor role, we're going to see a really good Texans season.
I would assume that he saw him, and this is just purely speculation. I don't want to get sued or DMCA'd. I would assume that he saw himself equal to Josh Allen. And whenever you see yourself equal to someone, you basically are just treating them like they're your brother, which in a team scenario is fine. But whenever you're also like a prima donna, it's not fine. Like, I treat you like you're my equal. I treat you like my brother. And there's times where we're like, oh, you're an idiot. Oh, no, you're an idiot. No, you're an idiot. And which is fine. But whenever you're on like the national stage and everyone's watching you and I'm getting in your face and we're arguing and you're arguing with me. And then at the end of the day, we're fine. But like, then that puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth because then it's like, oh, you go read Twitter. And then on Twitter, it's like, oh my gosh, Ryan just owned Cash on the field. And you're like, no, he didn't. I hate this guy. I'm done with him. Like, who knows? I don't know. That's speculation. That's how I would go about the situation if I can put myself in like a prima donna's shoes. But like you say though, like it might be a situation where it's like you and Jackson, where you see Jackson as your little brother and you're trying to correct him and do better, and put him on the straight and narrow and something like that. And who knows? I don't know. It may be like that, may not be like that, or I don't know. Actually, to be realistic, now that I'm thinking about it, nothing will change. He'll still be on the sidelines screaming at Stroud.
But side note here, but little Jackson, little guy's really coming into his own here. Shout out to the little guy for his new gym, Maxes. We're proud of him. He's making his way in the world. But so little rabbit trail there for you. But
I'm gonna soundbite this and send it to him. He's gonna set it as his ringtone. He's gonna be so proud of himself. Oh gosh. Okay. Moving on. CJ Stroud. Let's talk about that, and then we'll get on to draft stuff because we got about 15 minutes or so. Okay, so CJ Stroud. Here's my take on the whole situation. My personal opinion is this. CJ Stroud comes out as a freshman, absolutely spanks it. Nobody thought he was going to be that good. I didn't think he was going to be that good.
I didn't either.
I thought he was going to be all right. I honestly thought he was going to be a mid-level quarterback in the NFL. But turns out I was wrong. He's great. This is my personal take, though. I think because the way that NFL defensive coordinators work, this is just the summarized version, and I can touch more into it after I let Cash speak. I don't want to make him wait forever. But defensive coordinators are going to watch the tape, figure out his weaknesses, and he's going to go into his sophomore year. And I don't know if Stroud is that guy yet to realize, hey, I really need to work on my weaknesses, because he's not a Mahomes guy. Mahomes did not know how to read a defense until his third year in the NFL. But it works because he's freaking Mahomes. Stroud, I'm sure that he can read a defense, but I don't know if he's that level of talent. He has not sold me on that level of talent to where I think he could not learn from his mistakes and be fine. So I think in his sophomore year, I think he's going to be 3,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, 10 picks, 70% completion percentage, just all around mid. They get to the playoffs, they lose in the second round type deal. Like, that's what I honestly think. I think he's going to have one of those Daniel Jones type seasons. And then the year after that, who knows? I think that he'll probably turn into like a freaking the next, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning-esque stat guy. I'm not saying he's going to win those Super Bowls. I'm not saying he's going to be the greatest of all time. Just stat level, he's going to be that consistent 4,500-yard guy over and over again. After that's what I personally believe. But what do you think?
Oh, I agree with you, and we talked about this yesterday for an extended amount of time. But at first, I was kind of like, man, it's CJ Stroud, and like, he just has such an aura about him, and we all just like want to love him, and like, he's the guy that everyone wants to root for because like he's a winner, and he's also, he's a, from what we know of him, he's a really good Christian, and so like that's the type of guy that like everybody, we want to see him succeed, right? And so at first I was kind of like, man, no, CJ Stroud's going to ball up. But then I started thinking about it. And if you think about all the QBs who went in, and just for the sake of this, I'm going to say first year starting, not necessarily first year in the league, but just first year starting, because my first example is Mahomes. And I know that he sat for a year first. But in his first year starting, he put up 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. In his second year starting, and I know he missed one game with an injury, but in his second year starting, he put up like 4,000 yards, and I think it was 28 touchdowns. Still good numbers, but we saw a big drop off. I'm trying to think here of some other QBs I could use as an example.
You could use Dak as an example. I'll pull up his stats right now.
What are you thinking? Yeah, Dak, I think that, his rookie year, we saw him go 13-3. I think he had 24 touchdowns to 4 interceptions.
So Dak in his first year was 3,600 passing, 23 touchdowns passing, 4 interceptions. And then he ran for 300 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Then in Dak's second year, he had a 5% drop off in completion percentage, 300 less yards, 1 less touchdown, 9 more interceptions, and the same amount of rushing stats.
Yep. And I think that, that just goes to prove, Mahomes, Prescott. I'm trying to think of other more recent QBs that we kind of saw really ball out in year one starting. And I don't know, it's taking me off because I just remembered some, like when we were talking about this yesterday, and now I can't remember it for the life of me. Justin Herbert was a great one. Yes. He balled out in year one. And then year two. And again, like you guys, you need to understand, I'm not saying that these guys were dog water. But it was – the thing is that we see these rookie or first-year QBs come in, and we see them put up good numbers, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now he's heading into year two. He's comfortable. He is the man. Like he's going to –
Herbert is not a good example. I'd agree with you, but he did put up 800 more yards in his second year. 6 more touchdowns in a second.
Okay.
Let me. I think there's one. What's his name? Okay, but we don't need to provide every single example of this. But I totally agree. Also, I want to talk about something that's going to get me so flamed. But let's continue with this. No, let's continue with this, and we'll talk about that here in a split second.
Okay, but that's just my take is that us as fans, we put so much like hype on these quarterbacks that, they were this good and they're going to be so much better in year two. And then like the QB, it's like you said, the defensive coordinators figure out their weaknesses. And the QB, he might even grow a little bit from year one to year two. But between the defensive coordinator figuring out his weaknesses and then our sky-high expectations, all of a sudden when they put up middle of the pack numbers, it's like, this was such a big letdown from what we were expecting. And so that's my only concern with Stroud is that, yeah, that's going to happen to him because right now it's like, he's got this phenomenal receiving core that he's throwing to. I think that if you were to go and ask a casual, what are Stroud's stats next season? Oh, 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns. And I think we're going to see closer to 4,000 yards, 24, 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions.
Right. While you were talking, I was just trying to find some other ones. And I mean, damn. The ones that I'm thinking about that make sense in my head, I can't find. Like I was thinking about some other guys that probably didn't do phenomenally.
Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a great one.
Yeah.
Think about Mac Jones.
Let's look at Mac Jones's stats. Let's see. Mac Jones in his first year. Excellent example, Cash. Good job. Mac Jones looked like the face of the franchise after 1 year. He did 67.6% completion percentage, round that up to 68. 68% completion percentage, 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks. All right.
Made the Pro Bowl that year, too. Like, he was a Pro Bowl QB.
Then in his next year, 2,900, 14 and 11.
Yep.
Great example. That was a great example. Okay, so I'm going to get flamed. I already know it. You're going to flame me. Jackson's going to listen to this, and he's going to flame me. Truman's going to listen to this. I'm going to get flamed. But Justin Herbert is not a top 6 quarterback. I do not care who I am talking to. I don't care if I'm talking to him myself, dude. He is not a top 6 quarterback. The dude is not a winner. I just don't listen. Justin Herbert, athletic, can throw the ball 63 yards planted in the ground. He can run fast. He's big. But the thing is that I've noticed is that the Trevor Lawrences of the world, the Justin Herberts of the world, they're this prototypical quarterback build. They're athletic. They're big. They're white. And and they just, like, no matter how bad they do or how many games they lose, everybody just finds these excuses for them. Okay, Justin Herbert, like Truman and I were talking, and Truman was like, man, I feel bad for Justin Herbert, blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I'm just sitting there going, Justin Herbert didn't have any help. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. And then he had Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Asante Samuel Jr., Eric Kendricks. The only thing that Justin Herbert has suffered from is an incompetent head coach and often incompetent coordinators. But I can tell you, as my experience as a Cowboy fan, that incompetent, I can tell you as an experience as a Cowboys fan, incompetent head coaches and coordinators will win you regular season games and then lose you in the playoffs. Okay? So the fact that he's not even winning regular season games means something to me. And B, he also just cannot win in the crunch time. Also, number 2, the fact that he blew a 28-point lead against the Jaguars in the playoffs, that is still a sore spot in my head. How, as a top 6 quarterback, do you allow that to happen? I want to know. Like, absolutely, I want to know. And obviously, they could use the same example for Dak. Like, they could ruin my life on Dak. But I can actually confidently say that whenever Dak loses a game, if it's not because of Mike McCarthy, it's because of the defense. And I can confidently say that. And obviously, there's exceptions to that, like the Green Bay game. That was 50% Dak and 50% everybody else. But not to get off on that tangent, but I do not believe that Justin Herbert is or has been a top 6 quarterback in this league. I do not believe it. They ride the hype of his big time throws, his 70. Oh, he broke a rib, but he's still out here throwing dimes. He's tough. That's great. You know who else was tough? RG3. Was he ever a top 10 quarterback? No. Okay, like I get it. You know who else is tough? Freaking, I don't know. Dak, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. These guys are tough guys. All right, they're tough. Cool. I don't care. Can you win me football games? No, you can't. You're not a top 6 guy. Is he better than a Brock Purdy? Yes. Is he better than a Tua? Yes. Is he better than a Kirk Cousins? I would say he's near Kirk Cousins' level. Not athletically. Obviously not athletically. But I just think when it comes down to the crunch time, he cannot do it. I sound like a Dak hater right now, actually. If you just substituted the word every time I said Justin Herbert and said Dak, it would sound like the exact same argument. But uh, that's my honest opinion. That is my honest feedback. He's big, he's tall, he's fast, he can throw the ball, he's got great arm angles. I don't care. I don't care. How did you lose the game against the Cowboys? You were up like 14 points. How did you lose the game against the Jags? You were up 28 points in the fourth quarter. That just, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't care. And that is my honest opinion. Cash, now flame me. I don't care.
No, I'm not going to flame you because honestly, I think I was literally having that exact same thought either yesterday or today. And now the only thing I'd argue is that I think he's a hard one to judge because I think he is an absolutely stellar QB, but at the same time, like you said, he doesn't win games. And my thing is
you know who he reminds me of? Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, no, and that's fair. But my thing is that I'm like, you know what, Justin Herbert, you were throwing to a prime Keenan Allen, a prime Mike Williams, a solid tight end Gerald Everett. You know, in years previous, you had a top 3 running back in the league in Austin Eckler. You've always had a pretty decent offensive line, not great, but it's been good enough. And on defense, you've had big names. You've had Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Derwin James and, even the J.C. Jackson experiment. But, I'm just like, you've got all these big names. You're not the type of guy that we can blame your losses on the fact that you don't have talent around you, because it feels like every single year there is that quarterback who everyone's like, oh man, his team went 4-12, but it was just because, like he was balling out, but the team around him, he didn't have any sort of supporting cast. And I'm like, that's not the case for Justin Herbert. Like he had some great players around him. And it just seems like he just couldn't figure out how to get it done. And this next part of speculation. But I'd be interested to know, when I look at Justin Herbert, I'm seeing all these crazy stats: 5,000 yards, 4,700 yards, 38 touchdowns, 31 touchdowns, big time stats. And I'm like, how many of those stats came in garbage time? Because like we know he's not a winner. So we know he's not putting up these stats, consistently throughout the game. So how many of these stats are coming when he's down 17 points? And I don't know. I haven't watched hardly any of Justin Herbert's games. I've watched his highlights. I've seen his stats. So that's just speculation, but that would be something I want to know. I'd be interested to know.
I can find that for you while we're talking. And I memean, I don't know, bro. Like Justin Herbert's first 2 years in the NFL, 4,300 yards, 5,000 yards. 31 touchdowns, 38 touchdowns, 10 picks, 15 picks. Then here is where it gets interesting, right? I got 2 things to note. Number one, actually 2 things. Number one is his longest pass that was completed, 72 and 72. So that's where you get this hype, this dog, Justin Herbert, he can throw the ball under pressure. Okay? And he's been sacked 32 times and 31 times. All right, so that may seem like a crazy amount, but I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson got sacked 41 times last year. I'm going to find that stat in a second as well. But here's the deal. All right, and you may be telling me, Ryan, but Justin Herbert gets pressured. He gets the ball out, and that's why he's so good. Do you know how many times, Cash, that Dak got pressured in the San Francisco game in 2021?
No, I couldn't tell.
29 times. 29 times Dak got pressured in the 2021 San Francisco game. And that was the game that Dak ran the QB draw and everybody was like, haha, Dak, you suck. Okay? So that's that. And I'm going to find this now. I'm going to find how many sacks there were this year, and I'm going to find how many times Justin Herbert was pressured on average. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that could obviously play a big part into it. Yeah, and it just comes down to like you want a guy who can win you games at quarterback. And the scary thing is, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because New Orleans loved him, but at this point, Justin Herbert reminds me a lot of Drew Brees. And I know that Drew Brees won a Super Bowl, and I think it was 2008. But then, like, if you look at it, like, 2010 through 2017. And then they drafted that Kamara and Lattimore draft class. And that kind of turned their franchise around. And then they started getting 11, 12 win seasons. But there was about a 7-year stretch there where they were going, like, I think it was like 7-9 every single freaking season. And it was just Drew Brees every single season putting up 5,000 yards, but just couldn't find a way to win those big games. And, like, obviously I'm a Packers fan, so the same thing could be said about Aaron Rodgers. But even if he didn't win necessarily in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers did get it done in the regular season. Like, we had so many 13-3, 12-4 seasons, but that's who Herbert reminds me of right now, is Drew Brees, 5,000 yards, but just cannot seem to get it done, can't close a game out. He can't play a complete game.
So number one, if we're going off PFF, and I would honestly say that PFF has really good grading tools, and the way that they grade, I really like. They watch all the film. They do all of the stuff. They like, for example, like NFL might say, oh, Micah Parsons has 9 pressures and 12 sacks. But then PFF goes in and goes, actually, that one was a pressure, and actually that was a sack created by Micah Parsons. Therefore, we're going to rank him higher. So this is who PFF has as their top quarterbacks. The highest graded player last year at quarterback was Allen, followed by Mahomes, followed by Jackson, Prescott, Stafford, Purdy, Tagovailoa, Hurts, Cousins, Goff, Herbert, Love, Stroud, Smith. So the ranking is weird.
Yeah.
Right? But they're ranking it based off of whenever I watch him, how many times did he make a mistake, blah, 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 blah. So they're saying that Josh Allen, when it came to overall, he did good. I agree. Patrick Mahomes overall did good. I agree. Jackson overall did good. Prescott overall did good. And then it starts getting into lower overalls, and it's like the Staffords, the Purdys, the Tagovailoas, the Hurts, the Cousins, and the Goff, the Love, Stroud are kind of all in like the 80s, kind of the mid to low 80s. And Love is actually rated an 85, which is the same as Herbert. So I would say that based off the fact that Love, this is his first year as a starting quarterback, I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But and then now we're looking at Justin Herbert's advanced analytics. I can look at his pressure percentage here. Let's see. I gotta find what the key is for this, because the key will tell me pressures. Give me a split second here, guys. I apologize. So where's it at? DPR is the total pressures of the passer of any kind. So it says that Herbert had 239 pressures his first year and 199 pressures his second year. Okay. Now let me go look at one more guy, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, just because I know for a fact that people are gonna get mad that I always use him as an example. Let me see. DPR. Where is it at? DPR. No, I want to see. Here it is. No, that's not what I want to see. Why is it not telling it to me? I'm sorry, my good sir. This is taking way longer than I thought it was going to, because it's not telling me what I want to see. Oh, why is it selected on rushing? Passing. There we go. That's better. DPR. Okay, so player 1 was sacked 32 times and 31 times. Actually, let's use these last 2 years as an example. 29 and 38. And he got pressured 108 86 times, 272 times. Player B was sacked 38 times with a pressure of 212 and was sacked 20 times and 135 pressures. Now, does that sound like about the same rate? Because to me, that adds up about the same. And I can do the math while we're talking right now. What do you think?
Well, I think that it seems like player B had significantly less sacks. You said he was 38 and 20 for sacks?
Okay, so player B has a total of 342 pressures, 247 pressures through 2 years. And player A has, hold on, give me a second. One, two. Oh, that's the wrong number. What did I say the first number was?
I thought you said it was like 344 or something.
347. Player 2 is 450. Okay. Player A is. Then it is 29 plus 38 for player A and 38 plus 20. So 58 versus 67, right? So that is about 10 more sacks and about 80-ish more pressures, okay, through 2 years. Now, would you think that when it comes down to it, what are you thinking about about that? What does that sound like to you? Obviously, player B has less sacks and less pressures, right?
Right.
Right. Now, if I were to tell you that the difference between those was very slim, obviously, right? The difference between those is very slim, but one of them is talked about as this almighty deity, and the other one is talked about some freaking cancer king. That would be very surprising, and it is. It's because Dak literally got sacked 38 times in 2022. Oh wait, no, wrong guy. Dak got sacked 38 times in 2023 with 212 drop back pressures. And Herbert, in his worst year, got sacked 38 times and 272 pressures. Now, I want to know, where does this notion come from that 50 more pressures in a 16-game span, thousands of plays being played, equals the difference between, oh, this guy gets so bailed out because of how good his team is, and then this guy is so bad because his team is so bad. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. And that's Herbert's worst year when it comes to pressures and sacks, and that's Prescott's second worst year in pressures and sacks.
Yep. Yeah.
So, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm sure that let's go look at Love. Let me go look at Love.
Well, I mean, you don't need to do that. Because I understand what you're getting at, and and the point being is, yeah, I'm not flaming you. I'm agreeing with you. I think Justin Herbert is he's overrated, just given the amount of hype around him. I don't think he's all that. I think he's a great QB athletically, but it just there's some things like just that desire to win that Tom Brady had that I don't think he has right now. I think he's too mild-mannered about just the game as a whole. I think that people like Tom Brady, the game was their life. And I'm not saying that's healthy, but that's why they were so good, is because all they did was, eat, breathe, and live football.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Herbert last year had 24 big-time throws. Love had 34 big-time throws. There's a 10 big-time throw difference. And for those that don't know, big-time throws are third down and longs, pressure in your face, and it's a completed pass, crucial touchdowns, crucial completions, right? Those are the throws that define the quarterback. And Love had more than Herbert. But Love is a top 10 quarterback, and Herbert is a top 3 quarterback.
Yeah.
What? Are you kidding me? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good of a player you are. If you don't have big-time throws, you're not a good player. Plain and simple.
Yep. No, I think that's fair.
I don't know, bro. It's definitely an argument that could go on forever in a day. Like Dak had 38 big time throws last year, so he had 4 more than Love. Like I don't know, bro. It's such a goofball. Such a goofball argument like that people have. Like it's just, oh, Justin Herbert, he throw the ball far and he real big and he tough. So therefore, we're going to give him these sympathy points and move him up the player rankings. It's the complete opposite with Lamar Jackson. Like Lamar Jackson is a great overall player. He's got a really good win percentage. He poo-poos in the playoffs, very bad, but he's got an overall really good win percentage, and he plays well. And then everybody's like, "Oh, he's a running back!" Ha ha! Well, he wins football games, so I do not care.
No, for sure.
Okay, now Cash, let us get serious for a minute. All right. Now, let's say hypothetically that you are. Oh, also, the most sacked quarterback last year was Sam Howell with 62 sacks. So, not even close. Okay. You can cry all you want about your offensive line, Chargers fans. Sam Howell was by far and away the most pressured and most sacked quarterback last year. Okay. So, Cash, let's say, just for the sake of argument, that you're the Packers GM and draft guy. Who are you drafted?
Oh boy. Shoot. And you know what? I'm gonna answer this, and then I'm gonna have to get off because I don't want to, because I got work in the morning, and I don't want to open this big conversation and leave you out to dry. So I'm gonna answer this, and then if we could wrap it up, and obviously Ryan will get back to the followers, and we'll get you guys the content you want to see about the draft because I know it's getting close to that time. But if I'm the Packers at pick number 25, there's 3 guys I have my eyes on right now. That's Cooper DeJean, safety / nickelback out of Iowa, Kool-Aid out of Alabama, because right now we just need a good cornerback too. I'm not even convinced that Jair is a top 5 cornerback at this point because he just can't stay healthy. I think he still has the ability to be, but I'm just not sold on him. And the player I am most excited about, and for us to do this, we would need to trade Christian Watson. We would need to get him out of the building because it just wouldn't make sense to have that many wide receivers. But the player I'm most excited about, if Brian Thomas out of LSU were to slip to us, I would be all over that. And I think there's a good chance that he does, depending on how the draft shakes out. But 4.33 speed, 6'4", 1,400 yards, 18 touchdowns in 2023. And I think that he could give us that truly number 1 dominant wide receiver in the room. But right now we've got Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Watson, Dubs, and we've got some good tight ends, but all of these guys are all developing. None of them have shown at the moment that they can be that guy. And Bo Melton, I don't want to leave him out too. He's a great wide receiver, but I would love to see us go out there and get Brian Thomas and trade Christian Watson for a 3rd or 4th round pick. I think Christian will be a good receiver in the league, but he just can't stay healthy.
So if you are the Packers GM, you're drafting Kool-Aid McKinstry right now? The way this board is shaking out?
Let me see this board. Let me see this board, the way it's shaking out. Yeah, I'd take Kool-Aid right there.
Okay. And you're moving on to the 2nd round. And you've got Peyton Wilson, linebacker, center, quarterback. You don't need a quarterback. What are you thinking about 2nd round? Is there anybody that's really sticking out to you?
I really like Broswell out of Alabama as an edge rusher, but I wouldn't pick him there. I would probably take Edgar and Cooper out of A&M gone at this point. I'm guessing he is.
No, he's not right here.
Is he still available?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would
take Cooper.
I'd take Cooper right there. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to your second round pick. You taking Broswell here?
I'm trying to see who we've got available. You know what?
Got Keon Coleman on the board.
Yeah, I want that tackle out of Yale. I don't know how to say his name, but I've seen him in a lot of mock drafts. He's really raw, but right now we don't need a day 1 starter tackle. We need a developmental guy because we've got some pretty decent tackles.
So there you go. There it is right there. So this is Cash's ideal mock if he if it doesn't shake out that way. Real quick, I want to do one for my boys down home. I love mock drafts. This is fun to me.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here. Okay. Who's still on the board? Brian Thomas is gone. Okay. Newton. I think he's got really good pass rush too. Yeah, he got 8 sacks last year. DeJean wouldn't be bad, but honestly, your offensive line is crap. I'm taking JPJ here. I did not. I didn't mean to not do that. Okay, Cooper DeJean. We're drafting Cooper DeJean this time, boys, for the pack. For the pack. The pack is back, baby. And then who are you drafting here?
I was taking Cooper right there, I believe.
You want to do Cooper again?
Yeah. Or if we're wanting to keep it the same, I would take
Cash lagged on
Cooper
me.
because a lot of people have a first round. Right. Am I working for you?
Cowboys board is shaking up like. Coleman is there. Jonathan Brooks is there. I'll probably take. Oof, that's a tough one. Jump ball guy, Brooks. Jump ball guy, Brooks. Keon Coleman's still on the board. I'm taking him. And then you want to take same tackle again?
Yeah, I do because I think he's got really good upside.
Okay. So this is our little draft board here. Cowboys in mind take JPJ and Keon Coleman, and the pack takes Cooper DeJean, Edgerrin Cooper, and Kyren. We're going to call him Kyren A for now.
And
you like that?
That is, and that's crazy to me that Cooper is rated as an F because so many, like all the analysts like Mayock, they have him as their number one linebacker on the board.
Right.
And he blew it up at the combine. He was a good player, A&M. He's a guy I'd be excited about. But yeah,
right. I think you got to take that with a grain of salt. I definitely think that he's a lot better. I think he's definitely an early second round guy for sure. But yeah, I totally agree. Alrighty, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. This was an hour and 6 minutes. I know, Cash, you want to get out of here in 45. I'm sorry for that.
It's fine. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed you being here. We'll see if we can get you back sometime this week. Love you guys. Like and follow the socials. Follow that, or is it the_OG_Big Hoss?
Oh yeah.
On Instagram. And yeah, like, comment, sub, all those good things. See you guys in the next one. Peace.